A final thought, 2 European teams flies home today. I think well deserved from the other teams.
Yep.
Germany didn't show up. Netherlands played with another. Why, you want me to stop?
Well, sorry. Last thought from you, Thierry.
Well, the shape, he's scared of Morocco because normally they play with 3 midfielders. They didn't play with 3 midfielders, put a back 5.
Let's be real about Morocco. Everyone's got an opinion on this team right now, and depending on who you ask, you're getting a completely different team. Ask the neutral fan, and they'll tell you Morocco is the feel-good story of this World Cup. The plucky underdog, the team of destiny, riding the wave from 2022 all over again. But ask the stat heads and the tactical purists, and you'll get a very different answer. You'll hear words like fortunate, backs against the wall, living dangerously. You'll hear that this Morocco team has been outplayed for stretches of almost every single match at this tournament, and that sooner or later, the penalty shootouts and the late resilience, they're gonna run out. Here's the thing though, both of those Moroccos exist, and that's kind of the point of this video, because here's what nobody really wants to sit with. Winning ugly isn't an accident. It isn't luck running hot for 3 straight weeks. When a team does it over and over, against different opponents, in different types of games, with different guys stepping up, that's not luck anymore. That's a method. And whether you like watching it or not, Morocco has built one of the most effective, ugly winning machines in this entire tournament. So let's actually break down how they're doing it. Not the vibes, not the highlight reel. The actual mechanics of how a team keeps finding a way to survive when, on paper, they probably shouldn't. Quick refresher, because the group stage already feels like it happened a year ago. Morocco landed in Group C with Brazil, Scotland, and Haiti. Brazil was always going to be the measuring stick, and Morocco went toe-to-toe with them, drawing 1-1 in a match where Morocco actually took the lead first. Ismael Saibari finished a gorgeous through ball from Brahim Díaz to make it 1-0, and for a good stretch of that game, Morocco looked like the better side. Brazil eventually leveled it, and on pure goal difference, Brazil edged the group. Then Morocco did what good tournament teams do. They took care of business against the sides they were supposed to beat. A win over Scotland, a win over Haiti, job done. Second place, into the round of 32. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this is where the Morocco problem narrative really started building steam. People pointed at that group and said, fine, they didn't lose, but they didn't dominate anybody either. 1 draw against elite competition, 2 workmanlike wins against sides that were always going to be behind them in the pecking order, and when Football Paradise put out that World Cup has a serious Morocco problem video before the knockouts even started, that's the exact thesis. Good enough to survive, not good enough to actually threaten anyone. Then came the Netherlands. If you want one match that captures everything people are arguing about with this team, it's the round of 32 against the Netherlands. Final score, 1-1. Morocco advances on penalties, 3-2. Now, depending on which highlights you watched, you either saw a resilient Moroccan side grinding out a result against a technically superior Dutch team, or you saw a Morocco side that got outplayed for large stretches and needed a shootout to survive. Both are true at the same time. That's not a contradiction. That's literally the Morocco formula in a nutshell. Here's what actually happened tactically. The Netherlands had more of the ball. They probed, they built through midfield, they created the kind of clean, patient chances that come from a team executing a clear game plan.
5-4-1. I don't usually see a Dutch team playing like that before, so he's scared of Morocco.
Okay, well,
But this shows also that Morocco is a good team.
Yeah.
2022
We talk a lot about
semi-finalists.
Brazil, but Morocco is a good team. Watch out.
Yeah, good shout. Well, they
like Thierry said before the game, do not
sleep on Morocco.
Do not sleep on them, please.
Well, they took the lead, right?
And for a chunk of that match, Morocco was defending in numbers, absorbing pressure, letting the Dutch have possession in areas that didn't hurt them. That's not a flaw, that's a choice. Morocco's coaching staff has clearly decided that against technically superior opposition, they are not going to try to outpossess anybody. They're going to sit, stay compact, and wait for their moment. And they got it. They scored. The Netherlands equalized. And then the match did what tight, low-event games often do at a World Cup. It went to penalties, and Morocco's players and their goalkeeper delivered when it mattered most. This is the crux of the whole debate. If you believe control equals quality, this was a bad performance that Morocco somehow escaped. If you believe that managing risk and executing in the moments that decide games is its own form of quality, this was a really smart, disciplined performance that got the job done exactly the way it was designed to. I'm not going to pretend there's a neutral, objective answer here, but I'll say this. Teams that get away with it once are lucky. Teams that get away with it as a pattern against different styles of opposition, they're doing something on purpose. And that's really what this video is about, the pattern. Because if you zoom out past the Netherlands game and look at Morocco's whole tournament so far, you start to see the same shape repeating. Against Brazil, Morocco absorbed pressure for long stretches and struck on the counter through a quick, direct move. Díaz splitting the defense, Saibari finishing. Against the Netherlands, same story. Soak up territory, strike when the gap opens, survive the response. This isn't a team that wants to dictate every match from the front. This is a team built to be uncomfortable to play against. Low block when it needs to be. Compact banks of defenders. Quick transitions the moment the ball is won. And critically, players who do not panic when the game gets tight. That last part matters more than people give it credit for. Penalty shootouts are supposed to be a coin flip. Statistically, that's roughly true across the sport as a whole. But certain teams, certain cultures within a squad, handle that pressure differently than others. Morocco's run to the semifinals in 2022 wasn't just a great tournament. It left a psychological residue on this group. Think about what that run actually required. They needed penalties to get past Spain. They beat Portugal with a defensive performance that was, at the time, called boring by half the football world. They went to the semi-final against France, and even in defeat, they never looked like a team that was overwhelmed by the occasion. Players who have already been through a shootout at a World Cup, who have already experienced that specific kind of pressure and come out the other side. They carry something into the next one that teams without that experience just don't have. You can't coach that into a group overnight. Morocco has it because they've lived it, and a good chunk of that 2022 core is still wearing this shirt right now. And that's the piece the Morocco is lucky argument tends to skip over entirely. Luck is when something happens to you. This is a team making things happen to their opponents, engineering low-event, high-pressure situations where their specific strengths, defensive discipline, composure under duress, become the deciding factor. You can't talk about this without naming names, because a system's only as good as the players executing it. Start with the goalkeeper. Big moments require big goalkeeping, and Morocco's had it when it counted. Shootouts are unforgiving. One save changes everything, and Morocco's had the calm presence between the posts to make that difference when the pressure was highest. Then there's the spine of this team going forward. Brahim Díaz has quietly been one of the most productive creative players at this entire World Cup, for any nation, not just Morocco. That ball for Saibari against Brazil, the build-up work against Scotland, he's operating as the connector between Morocco's defensive discipline and their moments of actual quality going forward. Ismael Saibari deserves real credit too. 2 goals in this tournament so far, both the product of exactly the kind of quick, clinical finishing a counter-attacking team needs from its forward players. You can defend brilliantly for 85 minutes, but if nobody finishes the 2 or 3 real chances you create, none of it matters. Saibari's been finishing them. And then there's the experience factor, and this is where Hakimi matters more than the stat sheet will ever show you. He's not just an attacking outlet bombing forward from right back. He's the guy who's been through deep tournament runs before, who's played in Champions League semifinals and World Cup knockout games, and who does not get rattled by the moment. Watch him in the build-up to a shootout. Watch his body language when the game's tightening up in the final 10 minutes. That composure trickles down to the players around him. When the Netherlands game went to penalties, that's not new territory for this group, and Hakimi's one of the biggest reasons why. Which brings us to the actual question hanging over this whole video. What happens next? Morocco faces Canada on July 4th in Houston. And this is genuinely fascinating, because Canada is not the Netherlands. Canada isn't going to try to dominate possession the same way. They're a different kind of opponent, direct, athletic, playing with the energy of a co-host nation that's exceeded expectations just by being in this position. If Morocco's whole method is built around inviting pressure and hitting on the counter, what happens when the opponent isn't the one applying sustained pressure in the first place? This is where it gets interesting for the neutral viewer. Morocco might have to adjust. They might have to be the team that has to create, rather than the team that reacts, and that's not something we've seen a lot of from them this tournament. If Canada sits in and dares Morocco to break them down, does this group have the patience and the final third quality to do it themselves, instead of waiting for someone else to make the first move? That's the real test. Not another shootout survival story. An actual look at whether this group can be proactive when the situation demands it, instead of reactive. If they can, the problem narrative gets buried for good. If they can't, and they find themselves once again grinding out a nervy, low-event match that comes down to a moment of individual quality, or another shootout, the debate about whether this is a genuinely good team or a genuinely lucky one is going to get louder, not quieter. So here's where I actually land on this, because I think both sides of the argument are half right and both are missing something. The Morocco is lucky crowd is wrong to call it luck, because you don't survive multiple high-pressure moments against different types of opponents by accident. That takes a plan, discipline, and players who execute under duress. That's real. But the Morocco is just a great team. Full stop crowd is missing something too. because there's a legitimate, fair question about whether a team that's spent this much of the tournament defending deep and living off moments can keep doing that against increasingly good opposition. The deeper this run goes, eventually the margins get so thin that even the best shootout nerves in the world aren't enough. What Morocco has actually built is a specific kind of team, one that thrives in chaos and discomfort, one that turns low-event, high-pressure football into their home turf instead of their weakness. That's not luck. That's an identity. Whether that identity is enough to go even further in this tournament, that's the actual question. And we're going to find out very soon. Let's be real about Morocco. This isn't a team getting away with something. This is a team that has figured out exactly what kind of games it can win, and has been relentlessly good at forcing every single opponent into exactly that kind of game. The question now is whether Canada lets them do it a fourth time.